Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, today's article, I was inspired because something very interesting happened. So, we read the comments, and somebody had posted, probably because they'd seen this on a video, that they had just heard that mortgage delinquencies were approaching 2008 levels again.
So you read the comments, he read the comics, and that's what he found out.
2008 level. First of all, 2008 was too late. The housing market was already in the midst of a crash, substantially down from 2006. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the 2008 housing crash was well into, housing started crashing in 2006, which we actually called it on a radio show, Talk About Houses. Okay, but then what's funny is I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that's not right. This article pops up within like 5 minutes as I'm reading through articles. U.S. mortgage delinquency rates fall to all-time low. This is literally came out today. Brand new article, okay?
So this just makes the point the AI was watching what you were reading and wanted to give you context.
I think it did. What's interesting is this person has this belief that is completely wrong, probably because somebody just made a video because he wanted clicks and giving out propaganda, false information, okay? All right, so here's the thing. And actually, it was the article, I just saw it today, but it was actually for August 10th. Reuters, U.S. mortgage delinquency rates fall to a record low in the second quarter due to a strong job market and low interest rates prevailing on most home loans, despite a big jump in mortgage rates over the last 2 years, a report said on Thursday. We don't have quarterly numbers for this quarter because this quarter won't end until the end of September, and we won't get the numbers until late October, probably.
Right.
So, okay. This is the lowest. This is super low.
Yes.
These numbers are super low. I'll go to the next one. Delinquency rates fell to 3.37% at the end of the second quarter, according to Mortgage Bankers Association National Delinquency Survey. The lowest since the MBA began collecting data in 1979 and down 3.64% year on year. So even with the highest interest rates in 20 years, the delinquency rate fell. Now let's talk about this. This doesn't mean 3.37% of all homes are going to be foreclosed, right?
No, that just means that they are late. So late payments happen all the time. For whatever reason, people are late with their payments, and then they get caught up. They pay their late fee, and then they're good to go again. This happens all the time. The amount of people that will actually end up even being 90 days late is going to be less than half of those. The amount of people that will go through mediation will be less than half of what's left. So at every step of the process, that number is less than half. So by the time you get to the actual foreclosure, which at this point it's taking, depending on where you are in the country, it's taking anywhere from 6 months to 3 years.
951 days is the median in
Right.
the U.S. Matter of fact, all the foreclosures happening now are pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're delinquencies that started in 2019 and
Right.
before.
So the point of that is that any time during that process, the whole thing can stop, right? It can stop either because people bring the loan current, because the property is sold, and of course then the loan is paid off. So there are all kinds of things that can happen. So just because we've got 3.9% that are late, that's not substantial, right?
3.37.
I'm sorry, 3.37 that are late. That doesn't mean a whole lot. By the time you get through the whole process, very few of those will end up in a foreclosure, and it will be way down the road.
Here we go. Seriously delinquent loans, which are 90 days or more past due in the process of foreclosure, fell to the lowest non-seasonally adjusted rate in 23 years at 1.61%. Only about 0.3% are going to make it into foreclosure,
right?
Which is the lowest. Historically, it's about the foreclosure rate's about 1%.
Right, which that makes my whole point, because we started out with 3.37, and then we ended up with half of that. So that makes my whole point.
That's only 90 days late.
Right. So that makes my whole point that the 30 days, then by the time you get to 90 days, it's half of the 30 days. By the time you get the next step in the process, it's half of the previous step, and so on. That's why at the very end, you end up with so few foreclosures, because every step of the way, that number gets basically halved.
Yep. While the Mortgage Bankers Association said many borrowers have been able to withstand surging mortgage costs, in large part due to a resilient job market and strong wage growth throughout the year, most homeowners are also paying interest rates well below those charged on new loans. So these surging mortgage costs are not for anybody who already owns a home. These are for people who have bought within the last year at a higher rate, because anyone who bought before now or refied has 5% or less. And they have two things happening. Their wages are increasing. Remember, wage growth is like 4.5% a year. So they're making more money in wages, and their house payments much lower than probably half of what a rent payment would be.
Well, not only that, but their house payment is less than it was when they originally purchased a home for a lot of people, because they refinanced, right? They refinanced from maybe a 4 or 5% to maybe a 2 or 3% loan. So that house became more affordable after they purchased it because they refinanced. Because remember, most people did not purchase a home within the last 5 years, right? So that's part of what's happening.
Real estate brokers estimated in June that more than 8 in 10 loans outstanding featured a rate below 5% at the end of 2022, well below the MBA's most recent contract rate above 7%. More than 6 in 10 pay 4% or less. This does not include the 42% of homes that are owned free and clear. This is only people with loans. So remember, the free and clear people can't possibly get foreclosed. So
if they don't pay their property
taxes, but that's not a foreclosure. That's a tax. The county takes it back. Most states actually have a redemption, 1 or 2 year redemption period.
Right.
So they just title it the name of the county or whatever, and then after 2 years you can come back and pay your delinquent taxes and get the house back.
Within 2 years, yes.
Within 2 years. I don't think we have that here, but like California and some other places have it. I don't know what we do here, honestly, but that doesn't happen here. It does. It's not an issue here. We haven't seen it. Haven't seen that. Okay. So basically, here's the other thing too that I want to point out. When people talk about all the pending foreclosures that are getting ready to happen, they're not. There are no foreclosures getting ready to happen. There haven't been foreclosures getting ready to happen.
But when they're talking about that, what they're really saying to you is, list your house with me because I need some listings and I'm going to scare you into selling your house. And we're not going to do that.
Okay. So you should list your house with us instead.
Right, because we're not going to scare you. We're just going to tell you the truth.
Just list your house. Okay. So even if it did, if we see the data, we're going to tell you, hey, guys, there's a ton of these defaults and stuff happening. But here's the problem. You think I'm going to rush out and go get back in line with the banks and say, hey, I want to list your foreclosures? No. Do you know why? Because it's going to be years before those things ever make it to a trustee sale.
Right.
So this is a couple years down the line, and they don't all hit at once. They get spread out.
Well, not only that, but there are all kinds of programs in place that were not in place during the previous foreclosure crisis. So the idea that these homes are going to make it to foreclosure is really very dubious. Because remember, the banks have all kinds of tools in their toolbox that they didn't have the last time around. The banks learned their lesson. They really don't want to foreclose. They want to work things out with you. They want to sell the house before it needs to be foreclosed on, and all these sorts of things. So I don't see that happening. If you see it happening, please let us know where you're seeing it and provide the data so we can look into it.
Okay, here's my summary of why I'm bullish on the housing market. Okay, first of all, 42% of homes are free and clear. They're not going to be foreclosed. You have the other, 38%? No, 58%. But of the 58%, remember, most of those people, 8 and 10 have less than a 5% rate, 6 and 10 have less than a 4% rate. They're never going to get foreclosed because their payment's so small. They're going to do everything they can to make that payment. So you really only have this very narrow group. And the very narrow group are usually first-time low-income home buyers who just took out a loan at 7.5%. They're the highest risk.
And they didn't put a whole lot of money down.
No, they put a small amount down.
Right.
We're always going to have those people churning. But remember, that's a fraction of the market, because even today, a third of all people accumulating new homes are cash. So that 42% is just going to grow. We made a prediction that by 2030, it would exceed 50%. Over half of all homes in the U.S. would be owned free and clear, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, the other thing is, so where else would homes come from? Because remember, homes burn down and get destroyed all the time. They're taken back by cities and counties and municipalities who repurpose the land for other things through eminent domain. New home building, but guess what the new home builders have decided? They want to make money. So, and they're restricted because they just don't have a ton of people sitting around not working. Construction has full employment right now, which is unusual because construction and hospitality generally have very high unemployment rates because they're seasonal. But like in Vegas, we've got the lowest hospitality and unemployment we've ever had. Right? So that's the other thing is these new homes, you're not going to see a flood of homes hit the market like we saw back in 04 and 5 and 6, really 2003 through 2006, where homes were just flooding the market. And then we ended up with more homes than people wanted to buy, right?
Right. So the reason for that is because, like Todd said, builders want to make money. They're building bigger homes because they've got a better profit margin on them. Plus, remember, builders have a lot of constraints between land, labor, materials, permitting. There are all kinds of hurdles in the way of them building. So even if they wanted to, they could not build a sufficient amount to satisfy the demand.
Okay. Now, here's the last thing, bonus chart I'm going to show you. This chart shows the purchase price to rent price. So this is what your rent payment would be versus your mortgage payment if you bought a house, right? And it's got the Japan, US, Germany, the UK, Australia, Sweden, Canada, New Zealand. Now you can see New Zealand is the highest. It's about 280%, which means if your rent is $1,000 on a place, the mortgage payment to buy the house would be $2,800. So it's as a percentage, right? Canada, our neighbor to the north, this is why Canadians buy so many houses in the US. They're relatively cheaper. Median home price in Canada, I think, is $1.2 million. Actually read a report where only 10% of Canadians make enough money to qualify for a median home. That's how expensive real estate is in Canada. Sweden, Australia, UK, Germany. Look at this. These are all developed countries all over the world, the top developed countries. And look how much more expensive they are to buy than the US. We're still below Germany, and we're just above Japan, who's basically has been in a funk, really economically, for 20 years. They've had almost no growth. They have actually a population decline. And remember that Japan's a country that has these, houses that are outside of cities that are basically vacant because somebody died and then no one wanted to buy it, and they just sit around empty.
Right. So Japan's primary problem is a continual population decrease for a very long period of time. So that's why they have houses that are sitting out there vacant for, 20 years or more, because they have more houses than they have people.
And these other countries, actually, although they have pretty strict immigration laws, they are trying to bring in people because most of these countries do have negative birth rates organically, but they're trying to bring in more people. So this is why I'm bullish. We're not going to see a bunch of foreclosures. Housing's pretty much locked up. Yes. People come on the blog every day. We've got a couple people. But Todd, 7.58%. So now show me the 140 million loans that are free and clear or 2.5%. Forget the couple people who bought a house. You have some people for sure buying a house today. They're going to get foreclosed in 2 years because they're going to have some instability in their life. They're not going to be able to make the payment. They're just going to walk away. And if an investor doesn't buy it, then they're just going to say the bank can take it back. It'll turn into a foreclosure. It'll probably get sold at the trustee sale, and it'll just get rented out or something. It won't affect the housing market, right?
Right.
And then the builders aren't going to build. So we're not going to see a supply of homes. We've got this locked up supply. And then when you step back and look at these other countries and realize how cheap we are, can you believe this? How cheap? We're the highest earning, most productive nation on the planet, and we have the cheapest real estate compared to Germany, the UK, Australia, Sweden, and all these other places.
So not to say that homes are particularly affordable for everyone in the US, because that's not the case, but they are certainly far more affordable for far more people than in a lot of other countries. So this is just something for you to consider. Give us your take on this chart in the comments. We'd love to know what you think of it. Todd loves charts, and so do I. So please take a look at the chart and let us know your comments. Let us know in general what you think about the video. Any feedback that you have for other videos, we would love to hear from you. And remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video.
Bye.